For nearly a century, one nation has sat atop the world. Its economy, its military, its culture, it's the closest thing we've seen to a global superpower. We live in an American age. But rewind the clock. Erase it from the map. What do you see? Not a vacuum, not an empty throne, but a stage drenched in blood and ambition where other giants fought for the title of the known world. This isn't a story of one nation, but the story of power itself. How it was built, how it was held, and how it was always, inevitably, lost. Before the eagle soared, who ruled the world? To answer that, we first have to define our terms. Ruling the world for the Romans didn't mean controlling Brazil or Japan. It meant dominating their known world, the Mediterranean. So for this series, we're judging empires by three pillars. 1. Military and political power. The sheer force to impose your will, conquer rivals, and maintain control. The legions, the phalanxes, the hordes. 2. Economic dominance. Controlling the wealth, the trade routes, the resources that make a civilization rich and interconnected. And 3. Cultural and ideological influence. When people look at you and say, that is the model, that is civilization. Your language, your laws, your gods become the standard. Using these three pillars, we begin our journey not 300 years ago, but over 2,000 years ago, in a small city on the Italian peninsula that would cast a shadow longer than any other. Meet the template, the Roman Empire. For over 400 years, Rome didn't just participate in the world, it was the world for millions. Military and political power, this was their masterpiece. The Roman legion was the most effective killing machine the world had ever seen. They didn't just defeat armies, they systematically conquered and pacified territories, from the rainy hills of Britain to the deserts of Syria. They created a unified political entity of a scale that wouldn't be seen again in Europe for over 1,000 years. The Pax Romana, the Roman peace, wasn't about friendship. It was the peace that comes from everyone knowing that to rebel was to be annihilated. Economic dominance? Look at the map. The Mediterranean is a Roman lake. Grain from Egypt fed the million-strong population of Rome. Silver from Spain funded its legions. A vast network of roads and safe sea lanes meant goods, ideas, and people flowed from one end of the empire to the other, all paying taxes back to the center. They created the first truly integrated continent-spanning economy. Cultural influence? Wherever the legions went, Roman culture followed. Latin became the language of law, government, and science. Local elites would wear togas, build villas with Roman baths, and send their sons to Roman schools. Their legal principles formed the basis for many Western legal systems today. To be Roman was to be civilized. But at the very same time Rome was mastering the West, another colossus had perfected the art of empire in the East, China's Han Dynasty. While Rome ruled the Mediterranean, the Han Dynasty unified China, creating a centralized bureaucratic state that would become the model for every subsequent Chinese dynasty. Their military power pacified the nomadic Xiongnu Confederation to the north and expanded China's borders deep into Central Asia and Vietnam. Economically, they famously pioneered the Silk Road. This wasn't just a trade route, it was the internet of the ancient world, connecting the Han capital of Chang'an with Rome itself. Chinese silk was so coveted by the Romans that it caused a massive drain of their silver reserves. And culturally, their influence is immeasurable. Under the Han, Confucianism became the state ideology, shaping social and political thought for millennia. The Chinese written script was standardized, and to this day, the majority ethnic group in China calls themselves the Han Chinese. They didn't just rule a territory, they defined a civilization's identity for 2,000 years. By the 5th century AD, a staggering coincidence, both of these global pillars crumbled. Rome was fractured by internal decay and barbarian invasions, its western half shattering into a puzzle of warring kingdoms. The Han Dynasty, too, collapsed into a bloody period of warlords and division. The light of the classical world had gone out. The great empires were dust. The known world was plunged into what later historians would call the Dark Ages. It seemed the age of giants was over. But power abhors a vacuum. And from the ashes of Rome and the deserts of Arabia, a new explosive force would arise. A force that would not only conquer empires, but would fuse the knowledge of Greece, Rome, and Persia with a new unifying faith. And for a brief, brilliant moment, hold the torch of civilization while Europe slept. Who were they? And what happened when this new superpower finally clashed with the heirs of Rome? When we last left our story, the classical world had fallen. Rome was a memory and China was fractured. But as Europe entered its dark ages, a new power erupted from the deserts of Arabia, fueled by a revolutionary faith: Islam. The Islamic caliphates, first the Rashidun, then the Umayyad, and finally the Abbasid, didn't just build an empire, they built a new civilization. In a breathtakingly short time, they conquered the Persian Empire, swallowed the wealthy provinces of the Byzantine Empire, and stretched from the borders of India to the Pyrenees Mountains of Spain. But their true power wasn't just in conquest, it was in synthesis. While Europe was fragmented, the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad became the undisputed center of global knowledge. They established the House of Wisdom, a library and research institute on a scale the world had never seen. Here, they pursued the three pillars of power with a unique twist. Military power? They had it, holding a vast empire together. But look at economic dominance. They sat at the literal center of the world, controlling the trade routes between Asia, Africa, and Europe. Gold from Africa, spices from India, silk from China, all flowed through their lands, making Baghdad the richest city on earth. And their cultural influence was perhaps their greatest legacy. They didn't destroy the knowledge of the Greeks, Persians, and Indians, they preserved and expanded it. They gave us algebra, advanced astronomy, and new medical texts. They saved the works of Aristotle and Plato, which would later be reintroduced to a dormant Europe, sparking the Renaissance. For centuries, if you sought knowledge, you looked east. But just as the caliphates seemed unshakable, a new kind of power arrived from the steppes. It wasn't built on law or philosophy, but on sheer, unadulterated terror and tactical genius, the Mongol Empire under Genghis Khan and his successors. Let's be clear, by our first pillar, military power, the Mongols were arguably the most effective force in human history. Their lightning-fast horse archers and ruthless psychological warfare allowed them to crush every army they faced. They annihilated ancient empires, including the Abbasid Caliphate itself, sacking Baghdad in 1258 in one of the most devastating blows in history. Their empire was a monument to conquest, but then something unexpected happened. After the destruction, they established the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace. Across their vast empire, they secured the Silk Road as never before. Trade from Europe to China became safe and flourished. So while their cultural influence was often destructive, their economic impact was profound. They connected the world, making it possible for ideas, goods, and even diseases to travel across the globe. This newly interconnected world was about to be discovered by a new set of players on the far western edge of Eurasia. While the Mongols rose and fell, Europe was slowly waking from its long sleep. The knowledge preserved by the Islamic world filtered back in, sparking the Renaissance, a rebirth of art and science. But Europe was a crowded, competitive place. With the land route to the riches of Asia dominated by others, these new, ambitious kingdoms, the heirs to Rome's fractured legacy, looked for another way. Driven by God, gold, and glory, they embarked on a daring, desperate gamble to sail into the unknown. First, Portugal, then Spain unlocked the secrets of the oceans. They perfected the deep-water sailing ship and developed the navigational tools pioneered by earlier civilizations. And in 1492, a Genoese sailor for Spain made landfall in a world Europe didn't know existed. The discovery of the Americas changed everything. It was the ultimate game changer. With the Americas, Europe found a bottomless source of wealth. Spanish silver flooded the global economy, funding endless wars. Colonial empires were built, fueling the economies of Western Europe for centuries. The center of global power, for the first time, began to shift decisively away from the ancient heartlands of Asia and the Mediterranean towards the Atlantic coast.
For the next 300 years, the world stage would be dominated by the great European powers, Spain, France, and finally the British Empire, upon which the sun never set. But this European age contained the seeds of its own disruption. On the eastern coast of North America, a collection of British colonies watched, learned, and eventually rebelled. They took the European ideas of liberty and republicanism, combined them with the vast resources of a new continent, and forged a new nation. The stage was set. The old cycles of empire, the rise, the golden age, the stagnation, were about to be tested by a new kind of republic born from the very empires that had come before.